Well, hello. Welcome back to Zen Stories. How was your day today? Happy Monday, right? How was your weekend? Was it great? I'm sure it was. I hope that you're safe and sound and wrapped up in a blanket or getting ready for bed or just scrolling through the internet as we all do. So glad you came across my page. Such a wonderful page. I am Zenda. This is Zen Stories. I am sharing another positive, great story to bring some light into your life today. So, thank you so much for coming along, sharing the stories, following me. Please follow me on all social networks: TikTok, YouTube, Twitter or X, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as I also do a blog. And I also, after I read my stories, I try to share some information within the community, in my local community, sometimes outside of the community that I can find, just things that will maybe help with your children going to summer camps or just some information that will help you. So thanks again. So guess what? It's time for another story. So today's story is ta-da! Amelia Bedelia's first library card. And this is by Sherman Parrish. Let's see what happens in the story. And I believe this is going to be part one. I'm going to do a part two. Yes, we'll have a part two. So let's see what happens. Amelia Bedelia loved books and she loved to read. That's why she was so happy the day her teacher, Mrs. Edwards, took the class to visit the library. Everybody's what? Lined up. You see the line? Everybody's behind one another and they're getting ready to go to the library. Do you like going to the library? Have you had a chance to go yet? Well, if not, you need to grab that loved one and say, hey, can you take me to the library? I'd like to see what the library is all about. The next page says, welcome to the library, said the lady in the lobby. I am Mrs. Riley, the children's librarian. We have a lot of great things to show. But first, one rule. There is no food or drinks allowed in the library. We don't want icky, sticky books, do we? No, shouted the class. Amelia Bedelia quickly finished her juice box. She wasn't really supposed to be drinking it anyway. She looked around for a place to put it. The library really is great, she thought as she shoved her juice box into the handy trash can for kids. Now, let me show you how to return a book, said Miss Riley. You just slip it in here like this. She slid a book through the slot. Let's go see where it went and what happens next. Uh-oh, thought Amelia Bedelia. So see where she's putting the juice box and look where the book is going. Is it going into the same place? Remember what Mrs. Riley says, that we don't want the books to be icky, right? Let's see what happens. Everyone followed Mrs. Riley to see the bins that caught the books. She reached into one bin and pulled out a crumpled juice box. We will check this into the trash, she said, dropping it into the wastebasket. See why we don't want like food or drink in the library? This book is wet and sticky. See? So remember, never put your book in the library box where you return the books back to the library. Always keep that in mind. No food or no drinks in the library return box. Now come with me, said Mrs. Riley. Let me introduce you to Thomas B. at the circulation desk. He is checking books in and checking books out too. Hey kids, said Thomas B. Who wants to check in a book? Everyone took a turn with the book scanner. Beep, beep, beep. Check out the book scanner at the bottom. Everybody's getting a turn to check out a book. See that? Look at there. The book was all icky, right? It was like sticky and icky. The librarian showed the class how books are sorted onto charts, wheeled through the library, and put back exactly where they belong. See how the books are put back on the shelf? Can you see? There you go. We have books on every subject you can think of, said Mrs. Riley, from history to art to sports to science, and there are lots of good stories in stacks too. Amelia Bedelia didn't see any stacks. She looked around for something in piles like hay or pancakes, but all she could see were shelves of books. So it was a new experience. When she said stacks, Amelia Bedelia was thinking about pancakes. You see all the books? Wow. Let's see what happens. At last, they arrived at the children's room. This is my favorite place, said Mrs. Riley. So is mine. Please make yourselves at home. Hey, said Skip. The fish are afraid of me. They can read, Amelia Bedelia said. Your shirt makes them feel like lunch. Look at the shirt. His shirt says chomp. You see that? Mrs. Riley went to her desk and picked up a bundle of plastic cards. She removed the rubber band and put it on her wrist. This is my librarian jury, she said, smiling. Then she gave the cards to Mrs. Edwards. Here is a library card for each one of you, said Miss Edwards. Now you can check out books whenever you like. The whole class cheered. Hooray! So everybody's excited. They're getting a library card so they can check out books. And you see the pictures from the last page? Look at there. So everybody's excited. Let's see what happens. Remember, when we talk about how a library works, remember when we talked about how a library works, chickadees? Asked Mrs. Edwards. Always look at those sentences closely when you're reading. The library shares these books with everyone in town. That's right, Mrs. Riley said. When you check out one, you are taking a turn with it. So you have to remember, when you get a library book, you're taking turns. Somebody else has used it. So now you have it, and when you finish with it, you bring it back because someone else has to have a turn, right? Right. At our library, your turn lasts for 3 weeks. Now, when I get these books from the library in our library here in Augusta, it lasts for 2 weeks. So keep that in mind. Penny raised her hand. What if you don't return your book on time? Well, you can renew it and get extra time, said Mrs. Riley. But if you keep it past the due date, you get a fine. So that's what happened to me. I was so excited about getting the books I had the last time. I kept it over a few days more. So I had to pay a fine, which was just a few dollars. It was just maybe $1 or $1.80. So it's not much, but still you have to remember you have a term. So we have to remember that we have to take the books back or let them know that, hey, I would like to hold on to the book a little bit longer so you don't get a fine. So keep that in mind. That sounded okay to Amelia Bedelia. Getting a fine was not as good as getting an excellent, but it was not as bad as getting a terrible. We have a few minutes before we head back to school, said Miss Edwards. Please choose one book and then use your new library card to check it out. See the pictures? So, kids and everyone that's listening, this is a great story to share with your family. Of anyone that hasn't been to the library, this is a good book to kind of explain how the library works. On part 2, we're going to read the next story. Come along. Share the journey with me. It was so nice to see you. See you in part 2. Bye.